Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there, Nation. Welcome to the show where we show you how to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and it's time for Battle Report number 6 of the Age of the Realms. It is my Wild Hunt Sylvaneth army versus Fresh Prince Bel-Air's House Laenel, the silvery host of Kalador, of the High Elves. So let's see what happens when High Elves and Sylvaneth go out again for a second time in a row.
Assemble the army!
Alright, with that, we start off with my battle list. For this one, we have the Wild Hunt, which is my Sylvaneth army. It is the Guardians of the Deepwood Battalion. Leading our army, we have Durthu, followed by Coadil, the Tree Man Ancient, followed by Dryka, the Branch Wraith. We have a second Branch Wraith named Briar Maven. Next, we have the Sisters of Twilight, the Court of Winters, which is a unit of 20 Dryads, the Branch Nymph. The Court of Summers, which is 20 Dryads, the Branch Nymph. The Forest Shamblers, which are 3 Treekin, the Martyr and Poets, another 3 Treekin, and finally Sternbark, who is a Tree Man. And that makes up the army for this battle. Alright, now it's time to talk about House Laenel, the silvery host of Kalador. It is a High Elves army with a glittering host battalion army list. Leading this army of Lord Tywin Laenel, High Elf Prince on a dragon with a Reaver Bow and Star Lance. Next we have Tyrion, the defender of Ulthuan, Teclis, the Lore Master, Corhill, the captain of the White Lions. Next we have Tytos Laenel, a High Elf Prince with the Phoenix Banner. Next comes Silent Fane, who is a High Elf Mage mounted on an Elven Steed. Next we have House Laenel Guard, which is 12 Spearmen with a Sentinel, Standard Bearer, and Hornblower. The Silent Guard, which is a unit of 12 Spearmen, Sentinel, Standard Bearer, and a Hornblower. We also have the Eagle Guard, which is 12 archers with a Hawkeye, a Standard Bearer, and a Hornblower, followed by the Griffin Guard, which is another unit of 12 archers with Hawkeye, Standard Bearer, and Hornblower. Next, we have Lord Tyrion's Retinue, which is 8 Silverhelm Knights with a High Helm, Standard Bearer, and a Hornblower. And we also have the Everqueen's Rangers, which are 8 Illyrian Reavers with a Harbinger. And then rounding out his army list, we have the Reigns of Kalador, which is 2 High Elf Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. And that makes up the army for this battle. Alright, with the army list complete, now going on to deployment. So you can see here, we kind of settled for like the L-shaped deployments what my opponent decided to do. But in a weird kind of sense, we didn't really use the angles like I thought he was going to use. I thought he was going to set up his units next to where those buildings are on the other side of the table. But he kind of went for this weird kind of castle formation next to that tower. So Fresh Prince Bel-Air, he's really a big fan of castling up, especially the Age of Sigmar. And as you can see on the right-hand side, most of my force is kind of hidden by that brewery that's located there in the bottom of the page. But that's okay, though, because now we're going to zoom into the individual deployment areas.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative.
Alright, so this is deployment on my left-hand flank. As you can see here, I have the Sisters of Twilight parked behind that brewery there to kind of keep cover away from those bolt throwers. And right next to them, I have Dryka as well as Briar Maven with their 2 units of Forest Shamblers, as well as the Martyr and Poets, which are their 2 3-man units of Treekin. So that makes up the deployment on the left-hand side. Alright, now it's time for deployment on the right-hand flank. As you can see here, next to that Sylvaneth Wildwood in the far right-hand corner, that is Durthu. Basically, he's just chilling out there as well. I deployed him on the tabletop so that way he can use his tree singing ability for his command ability, start bringing up some more forests as well. The rest of my forces, my Tree Man Ancient, my Dryads, as well as Sternbark the Tree Man, basically they're kind of hiding along the spirit paths, waiting to deploy later on when I can put them into the, teleport them in right into the Sylvaneth Wildwood. So yeah, that's deployment for my army.
May it be an evening star shines down upon you.
Alright, so this is the High Elf Center. As you can see here, he basically has 8 Reaver Knights forming up the left-hand side of his center line. Same thing with his 8 Silver Helms with Silent Fane the Mage on the horse, which is on the left there, as well as Tyrion, which is in the center of that formation. And then right behind them, you have Tywin Laenel on the back of his giant dragons. So yeah, that makes up the center deployment for this one. And here's Fresh Prince Bel-Air's right flank. As you can see, he kind of casts up around that tower that's right there in that right-hand corner there. As you can see, he's got his 2 units of archers, his 2 units of spearmen with his High Elf Prince with the Phoenix Banner right there in the middle. And then behind him on top of the tower, you have 2 Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. As you can see in the left-hand corner there, up at the top is basically the rest of my Forest Spirit Army, just kind of chilling out, waiting to be deployed on the Spirit Paths. So with deployment done, we move on to the actual battle.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative.
Since I finished deployment first, this is decided who goes first, and I decided to take the first turn. So this is the picture of turn number 1 after command phase as well as after the movement phase. And there has been so. As you can see there, basically my entire army kind of swarms forward. And we'll talk about exactly what I did for each part of the board and individual zoomed up pictures. So let's go ahead and talk about it. In this close-up, as you can see there, I used Dorothy's tree singing ability, brought up another set of Sylvaneth wildwood between that red house as well as that fenced-off orchard there. In the process of doing so, I also teleported in my Tree Man Ancient Coadil as well as my Court of Winters, taking cover along the forest there in order to prepare myself to attack the High Elves main line. I also teleported Dorothy there in that location as well. So that's what happened for command and movement in this side of the board. Here in the center of the board, as you can see here, basically I used both Briar Maven and Drika. I used their Rouse to Wrath ability on that orchard there to bring up some unit of Dryads. Like you said, I brought up those grayish red, purple Dryads. I brought up a unit of 8 of those. And with Briar Maven, I managed to sub 7 of the brown and yellow-leaved Dryads over there next to the orchard as well. So both those units got deployed. I also sent those 2 units, my Treekin, my 4 Shamblers, as well as my Martyrs and Poets and their respected branch wraiths, and moved them up quickly as fast as I possibly could. Same thing with the Sisters of Twilight. I basically flew them over the house there, the brewery that's at the top, and kind of landed them right next to those line of Dryads I've newly summoned. So that's what happened in the center portion here. And in this picture, as you can see here, I deployed my Court of Summers as well as Sternbark by Tree Man, net within 3 inches of that Sylvaneth wildwood there is right next to the Reaver Knights, as you can see in that picture as well. So I brought those guys in there within 9 inches away from the enemy, so it worked out pretty good. So they're setting themselves up to do a wonderful little flank charge there right into the Reaver Knights and trying to catch them off guard as quickly as possible. So that is command and movement for this entire scene. And with command and movement done, we go directly into the shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
And as you can see in the shooting phase, there has been some. Basically, I opened up with the Sisters of Twilight as well as Sternbark the Tree Man. I opened up with that unit of Reaver Knights and basically plink off 5 of those bad boys. We managed to inflict 10 wounds on that unit even after saves and everything else. And so First Prince Brother was highly upset when that happened. His unit basically dropped down to the last man. So that was pretty epic on that side. So that is shooting on this side of the board. And shooting went spectacular on this side of the board as well. Between Durthu's Lamentation of Despair as well as Coadil's Doom Tendril Staff ability, we managed to plink off 8 wounds on that unit of bolt throwers. And my Lamentations of Despair's roll were just epic. I got a lot of 5s, a lot of 6s on that rolls. The bolt thrower crew wasn't able to save all of them, so I managed to kill off both crews as well as War Machines. So now we don't have to worry about those Eagle Claws ever happening again. So unlike other battle reports I've done, the shooting phase with this army was freaking on point. It was amazing. So yeah, kudos to them. And uncharacteristically me, I decided not to charge anything in during this time. I didn't feel comfortable sending my army in. I didn't think I could make a lot of the charges. I didn't feel comfortable sending Durthu as well as the Court of Winters into that unit of spearmen or archers yet. I basically just kept my army back. I just wanted to set up, what I want to do is bring more of my units onto bear and then probably bring up another Sylvaneth wildwood if I could somewhere on this battlefield as well to lend some more support to all my guys. So I didn't charge this turn. I just basically stayed where I was. So because there's no charging, there's no combat, and because of that, we go directly onto the High Elves' turn.
May it be an evening star shines down upon you.
Alright, so this is High Elves' turn number 1. I did not take the photo of the army after the move phase, and the reason why I did that was to show the command phase, because the command phase basically deserved its own set of photographs. That's how pretty good the command phase for the High Elves were. So once again, the Prince on a High Elf Dragon gets a command ability called First Amongst Equals, and what he does is that he picks within 16 inches of him 3 High Elf heroes who can then use their own command abilities as well, which is a really deadly synergy type of thing. And so because of that, he started to use them. First of all, he uses Tyrion's Defender of Ulthuan command ability. Basically gives his entire High Elf army, no matter what unit it is, they all have Bravery 9 now, which is basically like his. Also, he used Corhill's Slaying Monsters ability as well, so that way all the units in this army receives +1 to wound when it comes to killing monsters. And then he also used the Prince with the Phoenix Banner. Basically, he gives failed rerolls to wound, I believe, or is it hits? It's one of those two. He gives the entire unit of Silverhelm Knights with Tyrion as well as Silent Fanner, and so that because of that the command abilities were just pretty epic on this part. So that's what happened in this photo. And then when it came to the magic, Teclis is a beast when it comes to magic. He was pretty good in 8th edition Warhammer. He's pretty good in Age of Sigmar. He can cast 3 different spells during his phase. So the first thing he cast was the Tempest, and so I allowed that one to go through because I was afraid he was going to cast Arcane Bolt, so Coetzee didn't unbind it. He managed to put a wound onto Durthu, also had all of his movements as well. He then cast Arcane Bolt, and then I tried to dispel it, unbind the spell with Coetzee, but Teclis gets a +2 bonus to cast all of the spells as well, so I was unable to stop the Arcane Bolt spell. He rolled it, inflicted another, inflicted 3 mortal wounds onto Durthu as well as that, so that was pretty brutal. Basically, Silent Fate tried to cast some spells, was unable to do so, but man, managed to inflict, 4 mortal wounds onto Durthu just in that opening salvo, so Magic Phase with Teclis, it's a killer. And finally, here's a picture of the movement phase with High Elves. As you can see here, basically, Fresh Prince Bel-Air just sent everything forward. He marched up his spearmen with his prince with the Phoenix banner, basically holding the ground, sends up the archers in for support, puts in Teclis as well as Coil to the center of the formation, provide them cover from attack as well as lend support. As you can see at the top there, he moves up his entire unit of Silver Helms of Tyrion and Silent Fane forward, getting ready to charge into my sister Twilight, is where I think he's going to go into. He also brings up his Dragon Prince as well, Tywin on his dragon, and he also moves up his Illyrian Reavers a little bit into near the forest, so that way he can open fire with his shots. So that's movement for this side of the board. So here's a close-up shot of Fresh Prince Bel-Air's infantry units kind of massing themselves into formation to deal with Durthu, Coetzee, as well as the Court of Winters. And here's a close-up shot of the Silver Helms with Silent Fae, as well as Tyrion moving up to get a charge into my Dryads, as well as my Sisters of Twilight. His Dragon Prince, Lord Tywin on Lionel, moving up as well into the forest. And on the far right-hand side there, you can see a close-up of his Illyrian Reavers preparing to shoot. So those are the close-up for this round.
This is my boomstick!
All right, so now we get into the shooting phase. As you can see in this photograph here, Durthu's basically been shot up with some high elf arrows. Fresh Prince Bel-Air uses his Storm of Arrows command ability for his archers, so that way they can fire twice in the same turn. So basically, both units of 12 archers open up on Durthu 48 times is what they managed to do. Now, luckily for me, Durthu was within a forest, so he also gets his cover saves as well from having the forest as well. So he's got a pretty good save. He's got 3 up save combined with his ability to hide in the forest. He's got a 2 up save. Lucky for me, high elf bows don't have rend, and they're kind of have a 4+ to wound. Sorry, not a 4+ to wound. 3+ wound because of the abilities of the Coryell's abilities. But luckily for me, though, I managed to save a lot of those wounds. I saved an ungodly amount of those wounds as well. But also, on a side note, my opponent's dice during this battle were just basically failing him like it's nobody's business. When he opened up with his first salvo of double shots, basically, I think a third of them, 8 shots total made it for his first unit. I think another 6 shots for the other unit made it as well. So because of that, he didn't have very many shots to begin with, and I saved pretty much all the rest. He managed in the end, got 3 wounds on Durthu, which is kind of sad because now those wounds are forever lost for Durthu, and basically halved his combat ability. But yeah, high elf shooting is pretty brutal. But yeah, I got kind of lucky on this one, and my poor opponent's dice just kind of abandoned him. Shooting on this side of the board was actually pretty brutal. Combined with the Prince's Reaver Bow, the Dragon's Dragonfire ability, as well as Reaver Knights, they managed to put 6 wounds on the Sisters of Twilight. And I'm slowly falling out of love with the idea of using the Sisters of Twilights in my battle list. I mean, they're kind of mediocre in a sense, and I'm starting to realize that maybe it's a thing. Maybe I should take them out of my army list because they haven't been doing pretty well for me. So I'm kind of upset about that. So yeah. 6 wounds off the Twilight Sisters. So with shooting out of the way, we go directly to the charge phase.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Now, if you're wondering where the usual charge phase music is, that's that music track from the Charge of Rohan from Return of the King. And the reason why it's been replaced with the Epic Fail dice is because my opponent's dice failed him on this battle. From what I understood from what First Prince Bel-Air was telling me, what he was planning on doing was sending in his Silver Helms as well as his Dragon into the Sisters of Twilight was the idea. That way they can kind of hit both units of Dryads, and Tyrion can also hit the Sisters of Twilight. It was supposed to be a pretty epic charge. So he first rolls for his Dragon Prince because the guy who's made the longest charge. His Dragon Prince makes makes the charge, lands right directly behind my Dryads there, and kind of gets into the flank of the Twilight Sisters. And then for Tyrion as well as, so for Tyrion, he rolls his dice for Tyrion, and he rolls like snake eyes. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And he goes, no, I'm not. So Tyrion's not going anywhere. Then he rolls for his, freaking Silver Helms, and he rolls snake eyes again. And I was like, oh my god, that is horrible. Well, luckily for him, he had a I think it was a warhorn blower or a drummer or whatever. But basically, he can re-roll one. So he rolled again, and he rolled a 3. So he wasn't going anywhere. And then he rolled for Silent Fane, and he rolled like a 3 or a 4. So he wasn't going to go anywhere either. He basically wasn't going to sit as Illyrian Reavers at all, though. He was basically keeping the back so he could keep on shooting. But man, that was horrible. My opponent's dice roll abandoned him on this one. So now he sent his Dragon Prince in there all by himself, right in the middle of all of that Sylvaneth badness that's about to rain down on him, poor guy. So yeah, that's charged on this side of the board. And with charged out of the way, we go directly to the combat phase.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
So this is the picture of the combat phase after he's done. As you can see there, my opponent basically got to go first. He attacked with his Dragon Prince on the Scissors of Twilight, and he managed to kill the Scissors of Twilight. And I'm not too sad about that. The Scissors of Twilight are kind of annoying to me at this point, so I'm deciding probably I'm not going to put them on the list ever again. But yeah, that unit is now basically gone. Now, luckily for me, though, it took all of his close combat attacks in order to do it. His Star Lance, no, sorry, not his Star Lance, his Dragon Lance, his Dragon Claws, as well as Gaping Maw, all of it took all those attacks to kill the Scissors of Twilight. So that pretty much used up all of his combat. Now, none of his other forces charged at all during his army, basically hit everything else reserved. So that means it goes back to me with my combat phase because he's within 3 inches of my Dryads. So in the next photo, you get to see exactly what that happens after I pile my Dryads in.
Is there no one else? Is there no one else?
As you see here, basically I pile in my Dryads as well as my Tree Man in order to surround that High Elf Prince, and basically we just murdered that poor guy. That guy didn't stand a chance at all. All the attacks were coming his way, all the damage, you couldn't save all of it, so that High Elf Prince was basically brought down low. And all because my opponent's dice abandoned him in the charge phase, so I'm not going to lie, that's the only reason why we were able to do it is because my opponent could sit into the Silver Helms to support his High Elf Prince. So yeah, that pretty much rounds up the combat phase. And with combat phase over, we go directly to turn 2.
May it be an evening star shines down upon you.
Alright, so turn number 2 goes to the High Elves. He won initiative. Poor guy. That's the only time his dice actually did anything for him for this last battle round. So because of that, this is the picture at the top of turn 2 after movement and command phase. You can see there, some movement has been taking place there with his cavalry as well as some spells going on with his command phase. So let's go into the zoom-in portions of that of the battle report.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the horde. I don't think it means what you think it means.
As you can see in the hero phase, as well as the hero phase on this part of the battlefield, basically his wizard tech list basically flubbed some of his rolls. He tried to cast Arcane Bolts again on Durthu, but he managed to roll Snake Eyes on that one. Even with his ++2 to do anything about it, basically stopped. It wasn't very high enough. He then cast his Tempest spell again. He got that off barely. The only reason why he got it is because he got the +2 up to cast, but Coedel basically rolled a double 6 and basically stopped that spell from going through. So the only spell he was able to cast was Arcane Shielding, and the reason why he did that is because he cast on his first unit of Spearmen just in case if they got charged against. So that's what he did for this part of the battle. On this side of the board, Tyrion still uses his Defender of Ulthuan command ability to give everybody 9 up bravery, so he decided to use that for his command ability for his hero phase. As you can see here, Silent Fane also cast Arcane Shielding onto his Silver Helms, as well as to Tyrion as well, so they also get a +1 save for them as well. So that rounds out, and with that being done, we move directly to the shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
As you can see in this photo, both units of High Elf archers open up onto Durthu. They managed to put 2 more wounds on him, which is kind of sad. Luckily for me, I managed to save quite a bit of them because of my armor save combined with my cover save as well, so that was kind of nice. But still, man, those are 2 more wounds I can't get back for Durthu, and Durthu is almost dead, and that's just sad in my opinion. So I'm getting kind of upset about that. I don't like when Durthu gets hit. My opponent, on the other hand, his dice are just not doing him any justice in this battle, and he's starting to get really frustrated. And I feel bad for the poor guy because, he's doing everything right. It's just that his dice are abandoning him, and I just feel really bad for him. Oh, who am I kidding? I don't feel bad for him. Actually, I kind of like it, but you know what I'm saying, though. And in the shooting phase on this side of the board, the Illyrian Reavers pop off a couple of shots, manage to kill a handful of my Court of Summer guys. And they have this really interesting ability to where they can shoot in the shooting phase, then roll 2d6 and move that much as well after they get done shooting to get away from their opponents. So that was kind of cool. So he shot my Court of Summers guys, killed off a couple of them. Then he basically rolled his 2d6 and basically moved them in such a way to kind of protect the flank of the Silver Helms as well. So yeah, that was shooting phase for this side of the board.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the horde. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Now, the reason why I played the Epic Fail song is because this is actually the last shot for the turn, and the reason why is because for the charging phase, my opponent's dice kind of abandoned him again on this one as well. He rolled for his Tyrion as well as Silent Fane. Basically, he would have sent both those guys right into my Court of Summer guys. That's what he basically wanted to send those troops in. And then when he rolled for his Silver Helms, basically they rolled a 2. They rolled a 3, I think is what they rolled. Yeah, they rolled a 1 and a 2. So he got to re-roll again for the 1, and he got like another 1 again. And he didn't feel comfortable sitting in Tyrion as well as Silent Fane all by themselves against all those Dryads without support from his Silver Helms. So he decided not to send his troops in at all. He basically said, no, I'm not going to send anything in. I'm just going to keep them back here. And this is basically where we have a question on the rules, and this is where we're going to basically ask you, the community, what you guys think about this. We looked at the rules for charging, and it says that you have to roll so many inches to be within half inch in order for the charge to be successful. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. But the rules also don't say that you don't have to charge if you don't want to once you've made your roll, I guess is what I'm saying. Because in Warhammer 8th edition, once you roll your dice and you failed, you basically moved up so many inches. If you fail your dice roll, basically your guys don't stop. But they don't say anything about once you roll to fail, can you not send the guys who were successful into the charge? And that's the thing we wanted to do. I felt bad for my opponent, so I basically said, yeah, man, if you don't want to send him in, go ahead and keep him there. It's no problem. I feel really bad for him because no one should have to go through dice rolling like that ever. And so I said that's perfectly fine, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think you should be able to do that or not to do that? The rules are very brief, so they really don't go into it all that much. So tell me what you guys think. Give us a comment. Type up in the comment box if you guys have something to say about it. Tell me what you guys think. So yeah, with that being done, this is no combat. That's the end of the phase, and we go directly to turn number 3 for turn 2 for the Wood Elves.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative.
So this is turn number 2 after the command phase. We basically took a photos of the command phase because there's been some action that took place here. First off, as you can see in this photo, Durthu basically summons up a new Wildwood Forest right there in the back behind the archers there. So I plan on using my teleporting my tree men into that area right there to get some things done. We also managed to cast some spells, some arcane bolts, and that kind of thing. So with that, we'll go directly into the zoom-ins for the command phase. Alright, in this close-up, as you can see here, the High Elf Prince with the Phoenix Banner is now dead. The reason why that happens is because Coadil cast Arcane Bolt. And I kind of did this in this order for a very specific reason. I cast Arcane Bolt, the spell went off, Tekla was unable to unbind it, and with that spell going off, basically it inflicted 3 mortal wounds onto the High Elf Prince with the Phoenix Banner. Now, because these are Sylvaneth Wildwoods, whenever a spell goes off near them, basically it causes the woods to kind of writhe around and start killing things unless you have the Sylvaneth keyword. That unit with the High Elf Prince was in 3 inches of this Sylvaneth Wildwood, so because of that unit takes D3 mortal wounds, and basically we inflicted that onto the Prince, so the Prince basically got eaten up from that part. I forgot to take off the wounds for the High Elves, but in hindsight, it's 2020. Those High Elf guys should have lost 3 wounds as well because that's how it usually works, but it didn't really matter at that point. So yeah, so we plinked off the High Elf Prince on this one. So that is a close-up on this shot. And as you can see in this picture, both my branch raids try to open up with Arcane Bolt onto Tyrion. One basically doesn't work. The other spell managed to go off, but only managed to inflict 1 mortal wound on Tyrion, which was kind of sad. So yeah, Tyrion's now down 1 wound, which is kind of cool, I guess. Could have been better, but I'll take what I can get. And with command out of the way, we go directly to the movement phase. As you can see in this picture, there's basically been some. First of all, I teleport Sternbark, my tree man, as well as Durthu, as well as Coadil, the tree man ancient. I teleport them out of their respective Sylvaneth Wildwoods and put them on the other side of the board right behind that unit of archers. So I set them up for a wonderful pincer attack as well. As you can see in the bottom there, I move up my Court of Winters, and basically I move all my Dryads up at the top as well. So we basically start swarming the High Elf Lions and basically get ready to bring the pain. So here's a close-up of my Court of Winters, basically inching forward in order to charge into the ranks of the High Elf Spearmen. Basically half the unit will be kind of still left in the forest and half is not, so getting rid of them set up for that one. This is a close-up shot of my 3 treemen basically going to that Sylvaneth Wildwoods, getting ready to charge into the rear of those archers, which is pretty awesome as well. So gonna give them a nice little pincer attack going on here. And here's a shot of my treekin, as well as all my dryad units, the newly summoned up dryads, as well as my quarter summers, basically getting swarming in, ready to encircle and envelop the Silverhelms as well. So that basically moves up the movement phase. And with movement over, we go directly into the shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
Alright, as you can see in this picture, all 3 of my treemen, Sternbark the treeman, Durthu the Durthu basically, Coadell the treeman agent, all 3 open up onto that unit of archers. The rolls could have been better, but I managed to take off half of that unit, so that was pretty cool. I managed to kill 6 of those archers in the process, so that pretty much rounds up the shooting on this side. And with the shooting phase over, we go directly into the charge phase. And there has been some serious charging in this photo. Basically, as you can see there, almost everything basically just charges in as quickly as it can to try to surround and pound on everything that I get my hands on. So yeah, as you can see there, Dryads are charging into the Elves. My Treemen are charging into their back. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful little image here of all those Sylvaneth just basically having a heyday with the High Elves. So let's go into the close-ups. So as you can see in this close-up photo, basically the Court of Winters charged into those 2 units of High Elf Spearmen, so we're getting ready to get that on, take those guys out as well. As you can see in the back there, both Durthu and Coadell charge into the rear of the archers and get ready to take them out as well. I tried to roll to have Sternbark charge into the rear of those Illyrian Reavers, but unfortunately for me, he failed his roll, so he's still stuck back there in the forest. And as you can see up there, my brown summoned Dryads charge into the Illyrian Reavers, as well as a little bit to the flank of the Silverhelms. So that is a charge phase in this close-up. And as you can see in this photo, my Court of Summers kind of charged the flank as well as the front of the Silverhelm Knights and where Silent Fane is located at. The Grey summoned Dryads charged into the bottom flank as well as the front of the Silverhelm Knights as well. And as you can see in the back, also 3 of my Treekin, the Force Shamus, also charged as well and got within range where Tyrion is located at. So that is a close-up on this charge. And with charges done, we go directly to the combat phase.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
And as you can see in this picture with the combat phase, there has been some combat. It was massive. Lots of death, a lot of destruction. All kinds of people died. Dryads died. High Elves died. It was pretty bloody and pretty epic all at the same time. And so, yeah, pretty violent stuff. It was a pretty epic combat phase. Spent a lot of the time rolling dice and going between the different combats. Pretty epic. So we're going to break this down for you into smaller chunks so you can see it. So let's go into the zoom-ins and talk about exactly what happened in each part of the combat phase. Alright, so as you can see in this picture, there has been some combat going on. Basically, we decimate that unit of Spearmen up the top part there with half of the, oh, so not half of the unit. Basically, yeah, half the unit was wiped out by my Dryads. That was pretty epic as well. And as you can see in the bottom part of the picture there, bottom half of the picture, basically took out about a quarter of those High Elf Spearmen as well. So that was pretty awesome at the same time. I blasted a handful of Dryads, not very much, but when the Battle Shock phase came, basically a couple more units of High Elves basically disappeared from that part as well. As you can see also on the top of that photo, that unit of archers that Durthu charged into is completely gone. He wiped those guys on the face of the planet, so that part was pretty epic as well. As you see in this photo, the unit of archers that Durthu charged into is wiped out. Same thing with the combat that took place on this side of the board here as well. As you can see here, basically Coadell charged into where Teclis as well as Coadell was located at. And basically I was trying to kill Teclis what I was doing. So basically I inflicted 4 wounds onto Teclis. However, Coadell has a special ability that if he's near a High Elf hero who's about to take damage, on a 3-up, he can take the damage on himself and then ignore the wounds on Teclis. So my opponent decided to do that. So those 4 wounds basically got transferred to Coadell instead. So that was pretty awesome as well. So those guys are still around. And then over here, close combat was a massacre on this side. As you can see there, after all the combat was done, my brown Dryads pretty much survived the attack against the Illyrian Reavers. They managed to wipe those guys out in the process, so those Illyrian Reavers are now dead. That unit of Silverhelm basically got chopped down in half after all the combat was said and done. They totally wiped out that unit of Grey summoned Dryads. Those guys are completely gone off the board as well. But the main thing that happened here was that my tree can open up an attack on Tyrion. And for once, my tree can actually surprise me. They did it surprisingly well in this combat. Basically, they beat Tyrion down. They basically killed that poor guy. They chopped him down like it was nobody's business. And all the wounds that they inflicted was pretty amazing. Now, luckily for my opponent, Tyrion has this magical item called the Heart of Avalorn. If he rolls a 2 up, basically Tyrion comes back from the dead and he has all of his wounds again. So I figured, okay, great. He'll roll that dice, I'll have to fight Tyrion again, and basically be no problem. And then the worst thing imaginable happens. My opponent's dice basically fell him again.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable. You keep using the horde. I don't think it means what you think it means.
He rolls his dice. He only has a 1/6 of a chance of actually making this happen. He rolls it, and he rolls a 1. 5 out of 6 rolls, so 5/6 of the rolls, it could have been anything else except for that 1. But he managed to roll that 1/6, and he got the 1, and Tyrion died. And it's at that point that my opponent was basically done. He was like, that's it. My dice suck, basically is what he said. And he was basically pretty much finished. So yeah, that was basically around the comment in this phase. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the game. As you can see from the top of this picture there, basically I still have a lot more Sylvaneth going on. My opponent actually still has quite a bit of units on the board. He still has some spearmen, another unit of archers. He still has Teclis as well as Corhill, and a few more Silverhelms left. But basically, my opponent's morale and his heart was broken in this battle so many times. His dice completely banged him every single time that he needed him to do something. And so my opponent was done. He was just like, you know what? I can't blame him. Sometimes you got to take that really hard loss, and he was just absolutely done with this battle. He didn't want anything more to do with it. So with that, we go directly to the after action report, because this game is now over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the after action report. This is the part of the battle report where we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we go into the battle. So this is the after action report for battle report number 6. It was I, Commander Cheapskate of the Wild Hunt with my Sylvaneth army versus First Prince Belair of the House Laenel, the Silvery Host of Caldor, which is High Elves. And it ended up being a victory for yours truly. So let's talk about some of the things that worked out and what basically happened. First of all, I used a strategy known as operational offense, tactical defense is what it's called. Basically, the idea is that you go on the offensive, but what you do is you maneuver your forces in such a way that they can go into the terrain in these really defensible positions, and once they maneuver on the offense to get to these positions, they stay there and they defend. Basically, it's called operational offense, tactical defense is what it's called. And I gotta tell you, it's a really good strategy. I learned about it a little bit from watching the History Channel. Was on the Civil War. They said that General Robert E. Lee, that's what he used to do with his forces. He'd move them up forward to occupy an area. He would defend it, destroy his opponents, and then move on to the next area, and so on and so forth. That's the only way to go on the offense to finish off my opponent off, and it was really nice. I really liked that part about that. That's basically what I tried to do for this battle report, and it worked out pretty well. I'm really liking the double branch raids and using the summon of dryads and buffing up my units. That is working out really, really well. I think that was the thing that was kind of missing in my army, so I think they did, that kind of helped out as well. My Treatkin also did pretty well in this battle report. Not as well, I'm still kind of on the fence of adding more Treatkin to my army ever again, but you know what? They did pretty good, and can't really complain about that. But those Twilight Sisters, though, I'm not so sure about them anymore. I'm thinking about taking them on. It's kind of a sore spot putting them in my army in the first place, because it's kind of like I wanted an all-four spirit army. And having the Twilight Sisters in there basically didn't make it feel like that anymore. So basically I'm kind of done with there. I think I'll take those girls out and replace them with something else. Tree singing on this army was basically the bomb. I loved the tree singing in this one. Durthy basically earned himself a place in my army forever just for the ability for him to pull up those trees. Basically allowed my troops to maneuver around. It also allowed me to kill off a Elf Prince using that Rouse to War thing. So tree singing is absolute gist. Also same with the ground shaking. Ground shaking stomp is a lifesaver in this battle, especially learning how to use it properly. Before, I thought you could only do the ground shaking stomp when it was your turn to go with your treeman. But actually what it says is the rules state that at the beginning of the combat phase, all treemen basically stomp. And so I did that. So because of that, got me a -1 to hit for my opponent. So that kind of helped me out a lot too. So that part was kind of nice as well. Now, I can say all the things that basically helped me out, but basically one thing saved me in this entire battle, and that was bad die rolling. Bad dice saved me in this battle. More specifically, my opponent's bad dice were saving me in this battle, and there's no joke about it. I got really lucky in this battle report. Some real critical units that needed things that needed to happen for my opponent didn't happen. So because of that, I was able to exploit that and basically work. Summoning up the Dryads and swarming the Sylvaneth also really worked out really well, which is another benefit of having double branch wraiths. So that part was pretty nice as well. So I'm not gonna lie about that. It was kind of good having those that aspect to help tie things up. But the main thing that really helped me out too was the fact that the Silverhelms and Tyrion were unable to charge forward to support Lord Tywin, which is his Dragon Prince. That was huge. If it wasn't for that happening, I wouldn't have basically won that battle, because it basically allowed me to break down real huge important factions of his army down to small chunks and destroy them. I was able to destroy his Dragon Prince. That left me a tough time to deal with his Silverhelms as well as Tyrion. So that was really nice as well. Killing Prince Tyrion was huge for that part. Same thing with killing that guy Tytos, who was the battle standard bearer. It's a good thing I killed him as well, because otherwise he would be able to give additional buffs to all those spearmen and would be able to kill those guys off. But the icing on the cake on this part was also Tyrion dying. He was unable to revive himself, and because of that, without that, he was basically useless and he was gone. And it was the fulcrum, the linchpin that basically broke my opponent. So that was also another nice thing about it too. So yeah. Lots of really emotional highs and lows in this battle. So that pretty much rounds it up. You got to give it to my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air, man. That guy is a champion. No matter what happens, he tries, for the most part, tries to stay up on the right side, but you really can't blame him for being upset at this battle report. His dice are just horrible. So yeah, that's basically all that I had to say about that. So yeah, that rounds it up for battle report number 6 of the Age of the Realms. Tune in next week when we go into another battle report next week. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, remarks, complaints, recommendations, or suggestions. That also is really nice as well. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button as well, so that way you can stay up to date with all of the latest battle reports. So yeah, that'll be it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks and goodbye.